Hello, thank you for tuning in to Read a Story with me. Today we're going to be reading one of my favorite Dr. Seuss stories of all time. We're going to be reading Sneetches by Dr. Seuss. And this book is really great because it does a great job of teaching about propaganda. Now, propaganda is something you're going to be learning about, and it's basically when you're trying to persuade someone to do something by trying to convince them that it's actually what they want. There's a character in this book who is so good at using propaganda, at trying to get people to do things that he wants them to do. He's really good at trying to be sneaky and make them want to do things. He doesn't force them to do things, but he's really good at trying to convince them. That's what they should do. So while we're reading, I want you thinking, who's the character that's trying to persuade others using propaganda? Okay? Sneetches. Now the star-belly Sneetches had bellies with stars. The plain-belly Sneetches had none upon theirs. Those stars weren't so big, they were really so small, you might think such a thing wouldn't matter at all. But because they had stars, all the star-belly Sneetches would brag, we're the best kind of Sneetch on the beaches. With their snoots in the air, they would sniff and they'd snort. We'll have nothing to do with the plain-belly sort. And whenever they met some, when they were out walking, they'd hike right on past them without even talking. When the star-belly children went out to play ball, could a plain belly get in the game? Not at all. You only could play if your bellies had stars, and the plain-belly children had none upon theirs. Super unfair what's happening. When the star-belly Sneetches had Frankfurter roasts, or picnics, or parties, or marshmallow toasts, they never invited the plain-belly Sneetches. They left them out cold in the dark of the beaches. They kept them away, never let them come near, and that's how they treated them year after year. So I haven't seen any propaganda yet. No one's trying to persuade anyone to do anything. They're just kind of excluding others based on their looks entirely. Then one day, it seems, while the plain-belly Sneetches were moping and doping alone on the beaches, just sitting there wishing their bellies had stars, a stranger zipped up in the strangest of cars. My friends, he announced in a voice clear and keen, my name is Sylvester McMonkey McBean, and I've heard of your troubles, I've heard you're unhappy, but I can fix that. I'm the fix-it-up chappie. I've come here to help you, I have what you need, and my prices are low, and I work at great speed, and my work is 100% guaranteed. So he's telling them he can help them solve their problems. He'll fix them, and he will make sure they're very happy. It almost sounds like he's trying to convince them to listen to him and convince them that he can solve their problem. Then quickly Sylvester McMonkey McBean put together a very peculiar machine, and he said, you want stars like a star-belly Sneetch? My friends, you can have them for $3 each. So he's saying, I can get you to look like the other Sneetches, but you have to pay me money in order to do it. Just pay me your money and hop right on board. So they clambered inside. Then the big machine roared, and it clunked, and it bunked, and it jerked, and it burked, and it bopped them around, but the thing really worked. When the plain-belly Sneetches popped out, they had stars. They actually did. They had stars upon theirs. So Sylvester McMonkey McBean is using propaganda here. He went up to them and he convinced them, you don't look good without your stars. It will make you happy if you get stars. So if you pay me $3, I'll get you a star. He's trying to persuade them to do what he wants. He wants to make the money. He's convincing them that in order to be happy, he needs to pay them money. That's using propaganda. Then they yelled at the ones who had stars at the start. We're exactly like you. You can't tell us apart. We're all just the same now, you snooty old smarties. And now we can go to your Frankfurter parties. Good grief, groaned the ones who had stars at the first. We're still the best Sneetches, and they are the worst. But now how in the world will we know, they all frowned, if which kind is what, or the other way around? Watch what happens next. Then up came McBean with a very sly wink, and he said, things are not quite as bad as you think. So you don't know who's who, that is perfectly true. But come with me, friends, do you know what I'll do? I'll make you again the best Sneetches on beaches, and all it will cost you is $10 eaches. So do you hear the words he's saying? He's saying, I can fix it and make you better. He's trying to persuade them of something. He's trying to convince them of something. Belly stars are no longer in style, said McBean. What you need is a trip through my star-off machine. This wondrous contraption will take off your stars, so you won't look like Sneetches who have them on theirs. And that handy machine, working very precisely, removed all the stars from their tummies quite nicely. Then with snoots in the air they paraded about, and they opened their beaks and they let out a shout. We know who is who, and now there isn't a doubt. The best kind of Sneetches are Sneetches without. So McBean convinced them, now if you want to be cool, if you want to be the best one, you shouldn't have a star. Then of course, with those with stars all got frightfully mad. To be wearing a star now was frightfully bad. Then, of course, old Sylvester McMonkey McBean invited them into his star-off machine. So he invited the people with stars then to come and get their stars off. Then, do you think the original ones will probably go back and try and get stars again? I bet if Sylvester McMonkey McBean keeps trying to convince them that that's what they should do. He keeps changing what's cool, what's in, so he can make money. Then, of course, from then on, as you probably guessed, things really got into a horrible mess. All the rest of that day, on those wild screaming beaches, the fix-it-up chappie kept fixing up Sneetches. Off again, on again, in again, out again. Through the machines, they raced round and about again, changing their stars every minute or two. They kept paying money, they kept running through, until neither the plane nor the Starbellies knew whether this one was that one, or that one was this one, or which one was what one, or what one was who. Then, when every last cent of their money was spent, the fix-it-up chappie packed up, and he went. And he laughed as he drove in his car up the beach. They never will learn, no, you can't teach a Sneetch. And look at all that he left with. But McBean was quite wrong. I'm quite happy to say that the Sneetches got really quite smart on that day. The day they decided that Sneetches are Sneetches, and no kind of Sneetch is the best on the beaches. That day all the Sneetches forgot about stars, and whether they had one or not upon theirs. Excellent job. Okay, so you got to listen to the Sneetches, and I'm glad it kind of ended with the Sneetches realizing it really doesn't matter what we look like. We can all get along. But this book really did highlight someone using propaganda. I think you know who that person was. Your challenge today is to try to explain who was using propaganda. So who was trying to persuade other people to do something? Who was trying to convince them that he had what they needed, or he could change them, or he could make them better? And then I want you to see if you can explain why he was so good at it, why he was really smart. He wasn't necessarily nice, but he was smart. And maybe you can try and explain when you're explaining why he's smart, why what he was doing helped him get something that he wanted. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I hope to read another story with you again soon. Bye.